This is going to be kind of long. Sorry for any formatting problems. I'm on a mobile right now. So I, 28, female, have been with my husband Mark, 30, male, name changed for privacy, for 6 years and married for the last 2 years. I'm going to give a bit of backstory first. My mother in law had never been the sweetest person towards me, but I usually just brushed it off, especially at the beginning of our relationship. I was young and stupid, and I sort of just assumed mother in laws were like that with their sons. I moved out of my family's house when I was 16, and I haven't been in contact with them much since then. So I also didn't have any context of what healthy families look like, I guess. The stuff that has happened over the past few weeks has sort of been culminating for a while, and I am so lost right now. I don't know what to do. So, for context, when I first met my husband's parents, we had all gone out for dinner. Mother in law seemed nice enough, but she would keep making comments throughout the dinner that always seemed targeted and underhanded. So, do you have a job of your own? Or do you just live off of Mark's money? Or have you ever considered losing weight? You have such a pretty face. I think you would be stunning if you were a little slimmer. Or, you're a great girl, but I just don't think I could ever find anyone good enough for my baby boy. I know, I ignored every possible red flag. But in my defense, I was just really in love with this guy. She'd always say it sweetly like it was a joke too, and I didn't want to overreact. The first couple of years we were dating, the behavior usually only included petty, underhanded comments about my weight or appearance, or the fact that I was dating Mark for his money. We are both in the same profession and earn roughly the same amount. While he does earn a little more than me, it's not an amount worthy of gold digging. The stuff she said did bother me at first, and I'd bring it up with Mark, who told her many times to stop saying things like that. But it was never that serious. He'd brushed them off to me, explaining that since he's her only child, she's just a little clingy. He also didn't see them that often, as we were both working and lived about a 2 hour drive away from them. Things really amped up when he proposed to me, though. I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but our engagement and wedding were rough because of mother in law. We had invited his parents to dinner to announce our engagement to them, and his mother lost it when she saw the ring. She asked Mark how much it cost, about $7,000, and turned completely red when he told her. I know 7,000 for a ring is a lot, but we are in an industry that makes a lot and are super lucky when it comes to money, so this was a pretty comfortable amount for him. She literally told him that I didn't deserve a ring that expensive and that he had never brought her anything that expensive, which she deserved since she was his mother. She also said that she didn't think he was really serious about OP. No, we had been dating for 3 years by now. Mark told her not to be crazy and left it at that, but dinner was ruined and everyone left pretty soon after that. His mom didn't talk to him for 3 weeks after that. She texted him afterward to apologize, saying she was just scared to lose her little man. During the wedding planning, she tried tampering with the guest list and the vendors, and you guessed it, wore a white dress to my wedding. Mark stood by me through all of this. We had passwords for all the vendors, and he made his mom change them at the wedding. Our first year of marriage was great. We wanted to start our family and started trying for a baby right away. Things changed when I got pregnant at the end of last year, though. We surprised my in-laws at their house by making them a little gift basket with champagne, chocolate, and a tiny plaque that said, Grandma and Grandpa's. When they opened it and understood what was happening, mother-in-law looked at me and said, You sure it's my baby? Mark's right? I was stunned, but she laughed and acted like it was all a joke, and the evening moved on. This was when she started commenting on my weight a lot more. You've really put on a few pounds, haven't you? Be careful or your husband's eyes might start to wander. And I stayed thin during my whole pregnancy with Mark. You should really stop being so lazy and put effort into looking good for my baby Mark. She talked about women she knew who would pass off another man's child as their husbands, and it always felt super targeted at me. She would even make jokes about how she sure hoped I wouldn't do something like that, basically insinuating that I cheated on my husband. I hated these comments and always asked her not to say things like that. She would tell me not to take things so seriously and that I couldn't take a joke. She also started bringing up Lauren, 30, female, Mark's ex from high school, and would talk about how skinny and petite she was and how she matched Mark better since they're both fit. These comments, mixed with all the pregnancy hormones, reduced me to tears a lot of times. At first, Mark would yell at his mom to stop talking to me that way, which pissed her off more. Around my 4th to 5th month, though, he started acting more distant. He started visiting mother-in-law a lot more without me and would go over on weekends, even when I would beg him to stay because I was feeling sick or in pain. Around my 5th month, he stopped kissing me goodbye in the mornings before leaving for work, stopped hugging or kissing or even touching me at home, and would never show me any affection. I was really confused, but anytime I asked him what was wrong, he would get annoyed with me and tell me I was acting clingy and annoying, or that he was just tired. He even suggested that I was just acting crazy because of my pregnancy hormones. I let it go and just tried to focus on myself and my baby, but I was sure mother-in-law was in his ear about me. When my baby was born 1 month ago, mother-in-law insisted on being in the delivery room. I did not want her there, but Mark said if I didn't let her come, he wouldn't be there for me either. I was just so emotionally and physically exhausted at this point that I gave in and allowed her to be there. My labor was painful and complicated, but holding my son is still the happiest moment of my entire life, and I would do it all over again for him. Literally, right after they cleaned him and brought him back, Mark turned to me and went, "I want a paternity test." I was shocked. I thought it was a joke at first. He was serious, though, and I was just so confused and kept asking why. I had never cheated on anyone or given him any reason to think I cheated. My job was remote, while he had to go into the office, so I was almost always at home. My pregnancy was a difficult one too, so I literally had no chance or time to go and have a whole affair. He kept saying he wanted to make sure the baby was his and that he didn't want to pay for some other man's child. To hear him say those things about our baby just broke me inside a little. I agreed to do a paternity test because I had nothing to hide. 3 weeks ago, we got the results. You probably guessed from the title, but it came back negative. I knew there had to have been a mistake or something, but Mark just wouldn't even look at me. He packed his stuff and went to his mom's house, leaving me home alone with a 2-week-old newborn. I called over and over, but he wouldn't pick up. I texted him to say there had to be a mistake and suggested another test, but he didn't reply. 1 week ago, I finally got a call from him. I was a wreck by this point and just wanted some help with my baby. He said, "My mom was right, and he can't believe he married a woman like me." This is the moment things sort of clicked for me. What did he mean his mom was right? At this point, I was 100% sure she fed him some garbage about me having an affair or being an immoral woman or something. I decided to call mother-in-law yesterday since Mark wouldn't reply to me anymore. When she picked up, I told her I wanted to talk to Mark and that he couldn't just abandon me with a 1-week-old baby after the complications I had during my pregnancy and labor. She laughed on the phone and told me he wasn't home and that I deserved what I got. I got really angry at this. I was done with the whole family by this point, and I had my baby to think about now. There was no way I'd let them walk all over him the way they did me, and I just didn't want to put up with my mother-in-law's BS anymore either. I told her that I'm not sure what she thinks of me, but I never cheated, and that the test was wrong. This was the turning point. She laughed again and told me she knew she was the one who submitted the wrong sample to make sure the result came negative because I didn't deserve her baby Mark and that she wouldn't let me baby trap him. She said he would never believe me or put some woman over his own mother, so to just let it go. I was sort of stunned for a second and didn't respond. She then started on a long rant about how she always wanted him to be with a woman who was good enough for him and who matched him in terms of looks, I guess. She also brought up Lauren and how she missed her and wanted Mark to see that she was who he should be with. The paternity test was a way to apparently get him to leave me so mother-in-law could find someone who was actually suitable for him. I just hung up and have been sort of numb since then. I just can't believe an actual adult can behave like this. That brings me to right now. I texted Mark immediately after letting him know what she said to me and to ask her himself. I don't know where to go from here. Should I get another paternity test? I'm thinking of getting a lawyer too, but I don't want to complicate things too much right now either. Should I take him back after that if he decides he wants back in? Any advice would be appreciated. Update 1. Quick update for everyone who asked. First of all, thank you so much to everyone who replied and gave advice. I really didn't expect so many people to see this. I went to bed last night after writing this and woke up to like 900 comments. I've read all of them, but I won't be able to reply to everyone. So I'm going to answer some questions here. Like I said in my post, I'm not close with my family and I haven't spoken to my parents in years. They didn't come to my wedding and I don't think they know or care about my baby. My family is from Minnesota, but I moved to the East Coast when I left my parents' place. Put myself through school and college by working a bunch of jobs, met Mark in college and have worked remotely since. I don't really have friends nearby and my family is out of the question. I have a coworker who lives nearby and we text sometimes. I'll call her Katie, 29, female. I told Katie a little bit about what was going on and she was sweet enough to offer to come over just to give me some support for a bit. When she reached my house, I was a mess. I hadn't showered in a week. The house was a mess and a 2-week-old newborn crying in my arms. I was so relieved to have her here and just started sobbing, which was awkward because we weren't really that close. She was amazing, though, and asked me what was going on. I didn't have it in me to explain, so I just showed her my original post. Katie has been a sweetheart and has been watching my son while I clean up and get myself some real food and a hot shower for the first time in 2 weeks. She's also been a rock for me right now and is furious for me. I'm going to be honest, it feels really nice to have someone on my side right now. That's about it for now. Some of you asked about my father-in-law, and I never said much about him because he doesn't really say much. I don't know what he thinks about me, but he's always been nice to me and sort of just ignores mother-in-law in general. I don't know why mother-in-law dislikes me as much as she does, but it doesn't have anything to do with race or religion like some of you suggested. We're all white and aren't religious. I have a feeling it's because I'm a slightly bigger girl and pretty tall and Mark is really fit, into the gym a lot and stuff. I'm not obese or unhealthy by a long shot. I go to the gym too. I'm just not petite like mother-in-law and some of Mark's exes. That's my best guess, honestly. I'm also going to contact a lawyer today, so yeah, I don't think I can ever look at Mark the same again, and I know I want a divorce now. I have screenshotted as many conversations I have had with mother-in-law and Mark from before this whole thing too, just in case. I will also be getting another paternity test and will be giving him the results while I serve him papers. He still hasn't responded to my text, and at this point I don't care and don't want my son to have a man like him as a father anyway. The fact that he didn't even bother talking to me about it before abandoning me and his son makes me so angry, and I just don't even want him around me anymore. Sorry if this is all over the place, but that's about it for now. Update 2. Hi everyone. It's been a very eventful couple of months and I've got a lot of comments and PMs asking me for an update on my situation, so I thought I'd catch everyone up. Anyway, it's been 2 months since I last posted. About 2 days after my first update, Mark came home. I had the chance to clean up myself in the house thanks to Katie and had talked to a lawyer about divorce proceedings. Mark turned up early in the morning looking absolutely terrible, unshaven, and eyes that looked like he'd been crying for the last 3 days. I wasn't expecting him. We sort of just stood there for a minute before he started sobbing and saying he was sorry. I know I said I wanted nothing to do with him anymore, but seeing him in front of me was hard. I'd loved this man for 6 years, and it was hard to let go of all that. And hearing him apologize felt really good too. I let him come inside and we sat in the living room while I held my baby. He just kept crying and eventually asked if he could hold his son. The rage of the past few days came back and I said no. He just nodded and let it go. After composing himself, he asked if we could talk and I agreed because I wanted to know what he had to say. Thanks to a commentator here, I remembered to record the conversation on my phone. Basically, after I sent him the text explaining what mother-in-law had told me, he didn't want to believe it, but it kept eating at him for a while. Finally, he decided to confront his mom about it. She denied it, of course, and told him I am trying to baby trap him for his money and isolate him from his family. But it turns out father-in-law had enough of his crazy witch of a wife by then and told Mark everything. Apparently, one of mother-in-law's nephews worked at the lab the paternity test was sent to, and mother-in-law convinced him to switch up the results. Mark said that it felt like his entire world had crumbled in that moment because he realized how terrible of a husband and father he had been up until then, and what a manipulative B word his mom was. I'll be honest, it felt great hearing that. That wasn't the end, though. Mother-in-law tried to get in Mark's head and tried to justify herself by saying that, I called it, she thought I was too large and unwomanly for her perfect handsome boy. She wanted him to divorce me and get back with his ex, who was, according to mother-in-law, prettier and more suitable for him. She also thought he was giving too much attention to me and our future baby, and it was taking precious time away from her. When he went over to her house during my 4th month, in one of those days I couldn't go, she had invited his ex, Lauren, and convinced Mark that I had been distant and irritable with him because I was having an affair. As I said earlier, I had a really hard pregnancy, and tried to make him pay for another man's child. Lauren, who was tiny and admittedly very pretty, laid in on thick too, flirting with him every chance she got. Mark admitted to falling for his mom's manipulation and started seeing Lauren behind my back because he liked feeling wanted. So the entire time I was pregnant, he was the one having an affair. He swore they never slept together and only dated and kissed and stuff like that, as if that makes it better. And he called it off the week before I went into labor out of guilt. After telling me all of this, he begged me to forgive him and take him back, and that he'd do anything for me. He'd cut his mom out from our lives forever, if that's what it took. It was tempting, and I almost caved for a second. But one look at my son, and I remembered everything he put me through over the past 1 year, how he never set boundaries with his mom throughout our relationship, and how he literally had an affair and then abandoned me at my most vulnerable. I told him that after everything that happened during my pregnancy and after our son's birth, that it just wasn't possible and I don't see him the same way or trust him anymore. He cried some more, but eventually agreed to book a hotel nearby. I also told him I wanted to take a real paternity test again, to which he protested, but I insisted, so that was booked for the very next day. Well, the results came back 2 weeks later, and wouldn't you know, he's that father. Cue a lot of crying from him again. Is it bad that I felt kind of vindicated? Last week, divorce papers were finally drafted and I had him served after 2 months of hell. He was a wreck and tried to suggest couples counseling before taking any major steps, but I was 100% done with him. I asked for a 50-50 division of assets and primary custody, which my lawyer says will probably be easily granted thanks to the records I have about how Mark has been with our baby. Mark will get supervised visits on weekends, and mother-in-law is absolutely not allowed anywhere near my baby. Mark says he will not fight me on the terms, out of guilt, and I'm assuming, and rightfully so. Father-in-law reached out on the day Mark was served to apologize to me about not stepping in sooner, and I forgave him because he's a pretty chill guy. From what I know from him and Mark, father-in-law is probably going to leave mother-in-law too. I don't know anything about her, though. She's been blocked since Mark showed up at my door. I'm going to be moving out of our apartment, and while I'm sad and overwhelmed that my marriage has turned out like this, I'm hopeful for the future, finally. So yeah, that's what's been going on lately. I'm probably not going to update for a while now. Time to focus on me and my son now. I would just like to thank everyone who reached out for advice and support. I'm really grateful and would probably not have gotten this far without it. Update 3. Wow, I forgot about this account. It's been a year since I posted last, and I deleted Reddit off my phone and kind of forgot about it. This is going to be a short update for those who want to know. My divorce is going to be finalized next month. The proceedings were kind of drawn out because Mark decided he didn't want to give me the majority of the custody anymore and didn't want supervised visits. My lawyer was a beast, though, and with the recordings I had of his admission of his behavior and my pregnancy, and afterwards, chances are I'm going to get what I want. My baby is 14 months old and the sweetest little boy now. We have moved across the state and have a nice little apartment, and thanks to my job, I'm able to spend most of my time with him. I've also started going out more and joined Pilates and a book club, so I definitely have some new friends here too. Things have been tough with the divorce and moving and trying to parent my son all alone, but I've also felt so much better without Mark and his witch of a mom making my life miserable. I should have seen the red flags the first time when this man continuously put his mother before his own pregnant wife. But you live and you learn, and I will not be making a mistake like that ever again. I don't know if I'm open to a relationship again, but for now, I want to be there for my son as much as possible. I don't think I'm going to update again, but I think I'm in a much better place now than I was last year, and I appreciate everyone who wished me well here. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.